Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. A lot of you might not know this, but I was one of the many late diagnosed women with both ADHD and autism. Now in the past, I have done a video that's talking about why autism is so frequently missed in women, and a lot of the comment section was saying, well, what about ADHD? Why is ADHD missed in women? And today we are addressing that topic. Do you like the way my knees look? Me too. But as of recording this video, tomorrow I have knee surgery. And I'm really nervous. So if the energy and vibes seem a little bit off, that's because I'm stressed the f*** out. By the time you are watching this, I have already had the surgery, so I'm recovering at this point, and just wish me good luck with my recovery. I'm just like chilling at home. I'm not allowed to really do a ton at that point, so I'm just excited for it to be over. Oh my God. I want to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I want to go into specific details about why ADHD is missed in women. So if you want to skip just to that, you don't want to listen to me yap, here's the timestamp that you can skip to listen to the more broad things. For myself, I was a fairly hyperactive kid. I was pretty much constantly moving and doing things, but I was also able to drop into my preferred special interests or activities and keep myself entertained for hours and hours on end. And in the early 2000s, that wasn't considered a trait of ADHD because ADHD was really only ever talked about at that point as hyperactivity and inattention in the way that you're like distractible and unable to focus, when we now know that ADHD looks way different. So even though I did fit a lot of the standard criteria of hyperactivity, I was also excelling in school, and I had lots of friends, and I was doing lots of sports, and so I had so many outlets for my hyperactivity that nobody really cared. The hyperactivity wasn't a problem in and of itself, so they just ignored it. I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder at 4 years old, y'all. 4. I was going to group classes at that age to learn how to cage my inner dragons. Yep, that's a thing I did. It wasn't until after I dropped out of university because of such extreme challenges I was having that I went on to figure out that I had ADHD. I initially actually had my therapist suggest to me and say, hey, I think you might be ADHD. And I was like, no way. And then I got the diagnosis afterwards. And it was life-changing. It was so helpful for me to understand that about myself. And like a lot of women, I think one of the main reasons that my ADHD was missed was that at the time we were often talking about ADHD being so external. We weren't talking about inattentive ADHD. So the first reason that ADHD is often either misdiagnosed or overlooked within women is that ADHD can present differently, and our understanding of that is evolving and changing as time goes on. Generally, a lot of people, when they think of ADHD, they think of the little boy that's like tapping his foot or unable to sit still, when in reality, hyperactivity is not just external, it can be internal, and that is exactly what inattentive ADHD is. If your mind is constantly racing and cannot slow down, you could possibly have inattentive ADHD, and you might be misdiagnosed as anxiety because those racing thoughts could also be considered anxiety. And that's exactly what happened to me. But first, a pause to talk about the sponsor of this week's video, Bellesa. You know Bellesa by now. Bellesa is the #1 company of all things sexual wellness. And the first collection of silent toys is here. Meet the Whisper collection, the world's first silent vibrators. Bellesa's new Whisper tech line makes sure that you never need to choose between power and discretion. Genius. And before I get into all of the details, let me show you the silence of this collection. Did you hear that? Exactly. You can't hear a thing. These toys are so luxurious and aesthetic, they pack a serious punch though. They're powerful, but somehow completely quiet. I don't get it, but I love it. You can put your pleasure first without waking up the entire house or even your partner sleeping right next to you. And now, in whatever format you prefer. You know and love the Whisper Bullet, the silent bullet vibe with 5 speeds. It's tiny and literally inaudible, but the power is insane. Then there is the Whisper Rabbit and the Whisper Vibe, which both have 6 vibration speeds. The Whisper Vibe gives you the quietest G-spot stimulation you'll find, while the Whisper Rabbit has independently adjustable clit and G-spot stimulators in case you want to step it up another notch, but still in silence. Did I also mention how soft they are? Honestly, this whole collection is wild, and you have to see it to believe it and not hear it. And that's why I'm hooking you all up by doing a giveaway with Bellesa. Everyone who signs up wins a free Whisper Vibe or a Rose Suction toy with any Whisper purchase. this. And you know the rose suction toy, it is the viral TikTok toy that has taken the world by storm. So go grab your free vibe with the link in the description. We now know also that emotional dysregulation is a huge part of ADHD, but as women, our emotions are so often being described as like hormonal or moody or whatever. And so growing up, you might have had people just tell you that like, oh, you're just being a girl, or oh my God, is your period coming? And it's like, shut the fuck up. Hey, quick cue, can you shut the fuck up? And it's possible that you were actually dealing with emotional dysregulation and your nervous system was completely out of whack. I've talked about this before. I used to have massive meltdowns that were a combination of being autistic and ADHD and just having no support or clear understanding of myself. And yeah, a lot of the times I got labeled as overdramatic or like making things up or just being emotional. And now I understand that it's because my nervous system was dysregulated, I was emotionally dysregulated, and there were other things going on that were outside of my control. The next reason that ADHD is often missed within women is because of masking and social expectations. So women become so good at masking, and we're taught that we're supposed to, even with the example of periods, for example. If you are overtly in pain all of the time, people might look down on you, and that is something we've built into our society, that people go toughen up or like be stronger, and that's just the experience of being a woman. And so we learn how to mask, we learn how to put a face on so that we don't make other people uncomfortable. And so a lot of our ADHD symptoms become internalized and shoved deep down, which is exhausting. The toll that takes on you is so wild. And it's exactly the reason that why I ended up having to drop out of university at a certain point, because I was just exhausted and I couldn't hold that mask on any longer. For me, my masking often looked like overachieving and just dumping all of my energy into school. And so when I started to struggle with school, it felt like I didn't know who I was and I didn't know how I was supposed to present in society. So I'm curious for you, what were some of the ways that you masked your ADHD when you were growing up? The third reason that ADHD is often missed within women is the comorbidity rate between ADHD and other things. So for example, a lot of folks that have ADHD also have anxiety or depression or other challenges or other neurodivergent disorders. So for example, I was diagnosed, like I said, with anxiety really, really young, and I still have anxiety that I am actually treating outside of my ADHD. But for a lot of people, the outward expression of their ADHD looks more like those comorbid disorders. Anxiety can be a little easier to recognize. We also know more about it. And so for a doctor, it can be way easier to go, oh, it's this. This is the thing. Even though sometimes anxiety or depression can be a symptom of your ADHD, especially your poorly treated or undiagnosed ADHD. If you are an ADHDer, you're more likely to have anxiety or depression or a different neurodivergent disorder of sorts. And so it's very easy for doctors to go, oh, well, here's this thing that's really noticeable. We're going to only diagnose you with that. But it doesn't actually hit one of the core problems, which could be your ADHD. The amount of times that I have heard people diagnosed with anxiety or depression and then finding out years and years later that it was actually ADHD is insane. It's wild how many people have that experience. And it's so frustrating. I will say a lot of these things men also relate to, but I'm specifically talking to women because I'm a woman. I can't talk about a man's experience. I don't want to talk about a man's experience. Woman, okay. We also deal with a bias in research, diagnostic criteria, and clinical training, and so women will get misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed because of this. As many of us now know, ADHD originally was only ever tested or researched on white male boys. That's the same thing. And by doing that, we were not put into the equation. And so how could they possibly know anything about women and how ADHD shows up within us? Clinicians often look for or expect hyperactivity or overt challenges when for women, it's often a lot more internalized and within our heads and you know, it's all jammed in here and can't get out. And because of that, we get missed. And a lot of the doctors nowadays were were made doctors years and years and years ago prior to any of this new information coming out. A lot of the research done is super outdated and just doesn't include us in the conversation. And so it's important to be speaking to somebody that is constantly learning or understanding new things about ADHD, or is potentially even a newer doctor. But we are just learning so much now, and we're finally a part of the conversation. And so many of us went missed because of that. And I think a really key reason that ADHD is missed in so many of us is that there are a lot of barriers to us getting diagnosed. I mean, a lot of parents and teachers and adults in our lives as we were growing up were super undereducated and had no way of knowing that the challenges we were dealing with were actually maybe ADHD. And I don't know about you, but I have dealt with a lot of challenges with the medical system where I'm being gaslit by my doctor when I'm saying, hey, this thing is happening to me and I'm experiencing this issue. And their response is, oh, well, that's normal for women. Or, oh, here's a birth control that you can try. And we're just completely ignored when we're having really serious challenges. And it's so frustrating. Not all doctors, but a lot of them. And I know so many of you relate to that experience of just being ignored. There are definitely still biases within our medical system towards men. And so we're often just ignored or overlooked. So what is my suggestion for you if you are a person that has not been diagnosed with ADHD, but suspect it might be something that you're dealing with? The first thing I would suggest is to do your own research. Now, the tough thing about that is what I'm not suggesting is going to TikTok and watching videos and going, this is so me. I'm talking about go look at the diagnostic criteria and understand what all of that means for yourself. And then start if you really do believe that you have ADHD based on what you've read, start treating yourself as though you do have ADHD. Make it something you've accepted about yourself. Start learning new tools and strategies because of that. And you don't need to rely on the medical system because a lot of people don't have the privilege of being listened to, of getting the diagnosis that they really believe they deserve, or there's so many barriers for us, right? I am a huge proponent of self-diagnosis, or self-assessment, I think is the better term for that, because you cannot diagnose yourself. You're not a doctor, you're not a medical professional. But self-assessment is a really great tool. And again, you don't need a diagnosis to start treating yourself well, my friend. This is a good reminder to you and to anyone else in your life. A bit of a quicker video today. Again, I'm stressed and anxious about my knee surgery tomorrow. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you, Balesa, for sponsoring this video. I don't know if you saw my shirt today, but this is a Balesa shirt and I really love it. So thank you everybody for watching. Again, I did make this video specifically for women, but this could be your experience if you're a man, but I don't know. Can't speak on that. Can only speak about being a woman. Thank you again for watching this video. And as always, I am so proud of you for putting in the work to yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. So it's pretty fucking cool. You're doing it for yourself. I love you so much. Wish me good luck for my surgery in the comments below. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. We're skipping a week, y'all. I need to sleep and rest and stuff. So XOXO, love you so much. Bye.